Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today it's time to do the last week review for the USFL 2023 regular season. While we will have a couple other reviews, the season review and what they should be next year, this is the last actual week review. This is because this was the USFL Championship week. So without further ado, let's go look at the score of the game, which the Stallions ended up winning back-to-back titles after beating the Maulers 28-12 at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio. In terms of how they did it, really, as I've discussed in the Maulers eliminated video and will discuss in the Stallions video, the Stallions were just so dominant. Look, they absolutely obliterated the Maulers in a lot of important categories. Even though they did lose the time possession battle, they beat them by twice as many yards per play and had 150 extra yards despite having 11 less plays. And while only having 8 separate drives, the Stallions were able to score on half of those drives, and all 4 of those scores were touchdowns, versus the Maulers, which had to settle for 5 field goal attempts, where they only converted 4 of them. And the big difference is in the QB play. Running the ball, Magoo also was a bit better than T. Will. But passing, Magoo had another fantastic game, 142.2 passer rating, 4 TDs, no picks, 9.7 yards per attempt, 72 completion percentage, 240 yards. T. Will, 24-37, 72 yards or passer rating, took more sacks, was less accurate at 64.9%, had way less yards at 143. Essentially, the Stallions just fully outplayed him in every facet of the game. T. Will got absolutely destroyed head-to-head against Magoo in any sense of the word, and the Stallions were just a better team. So, in terms of Player of the Week, well, we're only going to really discuss one guy, and that's Deon Cain, the 2023 USFL MVP of the championship game. He deserved it. I mean, dude had 3 separate touchdowns receiving, and he only had 4 receptions for 70 yards, while also returning 5 kicks to an average of only 20, which isn't the best. But the fact that he had not 1, not 2, but 3 TDs receiving is insane. You almost never see that. So it was a really great game for him. Congrats to Deon Cain for winning the award. Definitely deserved it. Now we get into the attendance for the game. Last year's game had an attendance of roughly 20,000 is what the estimated totals were. This game was not as much. Now, the big problem is the fact that, as someone who went there can tell you firsthand, the rain. Up until about 2 hours before the game, and even during the game and in that 2 hour span, it looked like it was going to be thunderstorms, the game was going to be postponed. Thankfully, everything kind of cleared up, but it got to the point where a lot of people who were going to go probably ended up not going because of the rain, so you had a lot less people. Now, when you look at images from that 20,000 crowd last year, you can tell that mainly the third rows, or the 300s, have more people, and 200s as well. But the 100s actually looked more packed in this game than that game. To where I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I think, they had 20,000 people, but they definitely cleared 17,000 at this game, which is one of if not their best day since, week 1's Memphis Showboats game. So that's a really great sign to end, but it does not match the XFL's attendance in their title game, as their title game had about 23,000 people in attendance. And speaking of that, let's look at the overall TV ratings. So I'm going to go a lot more in depth on this number in the overall season once I do either the season review or the, what they need to do for next season. I'll probably touch on them both. But overall, the game ended up being on NBC and had a 1.16 million viewership for a 0.7 rating. Now, on the surface, you say the 0.7 nearly matches the 0.8 by the XFL, so it's not that bad. And then you also say, well, but then you also see the, 1.16 versus the 1.4 the XFL had, or the 1.52 the USFL had last year, and you say that's bad. The real reason that this is bad is that the 18 to 49 demographic, which is the big demographic, the XFL had over twice as many viewers in that demographic. That was not a good sign. So, overall, that was the biggest disappointment. The fact is that this game was expected to get over 1 million viewers, and the fact that it didn't even clear 1.3 is a pretty bad sign. So where essentially, I'm going to talk about it in that video, like I said, but it's going to come down to either A, is there true football fatigue coming in, or is it that you have that as well as the lack of this not being a new league? We'll see when the XFL comes back whether or not their viewership declines, because if they do, then that shows that it's because it's a new league, and then not being a new league, but we'll see. Overall, though, the overall TV numbers were definitely very disappointing for the title game. Considering the fact that the playoffs were able to basically match last year, despite the fact that one of their games was really bad, and absolutely clear the XFL, the fact that their title game wasn't even really that close isn't the best of sign. And though, yeah, you could make the case, well, the XFL only went up by about like, point 0.3, point 0.4 million in terms of from their average games of the network, which matches up with the USFL. It's also a double-edged sword because then you're saying the USFL, averaged a lot less in the regular season, which they did. But it is what it is. So overall, this has been Zomfox. This has been a great year. We still have a few more videos coming out for just this season alone. We still have to do the awards, the Stallions Champions video, the season recap, what they need to do for next season, as well as a couple other videos and some other stuff. Put a poll out earlier today about whether or not you want to see a bit of NFL content during the offseason as well. Got some OG stuff that'll probably come out soon. So make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified whenever those come out. And as always, have a great night.